Lord and stop balking. We taking down these demons, start walking. We need a plan of action, stop talking. We need a plan of action.
Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy Hitchcock from Post POST, The Real Truth. And I'm going to tell you the real truth today, and I'm going to get into something. And a lot of people call me conspiracy theorist and things like that, but I have receipts on this one. And most conspiracy theories don't have receipts, but I have every receipt imaginable. And coming from the horse's mouth, that's a big time receipt. So, but what I want to talk to you about first is fraud and the situation that happened with me in my situation. And I went to jail for it. And what I found when I went to jail is that everybody who was in jail, very small percentage would take responsibility for what they did. But what I did find is a lot of people did not take responsibility for what they did. Right? They would never admit the fact they were guilty. It was everybody that was in there that was seen to be innocent. And this reminds me of the government and what the government is doing, and people in the government who are doing it right in your face, cosplaying and doing things directly in your face, and you still deny that they're doing it, or you just ignore it, right? But what I'm talking about in this segment or in this couple of day podcast is the fraud that's being committed at the highest level, and it's just dressed up in a war with Iran. And this war with Iran is going to change a lot. I'm going to get into the petrodollar and things like that. I'm going to explain it so everybody can understand. Even the hood boys can understand what the petrodollar is and why it exists and why it ended in 2024. Kind of sneakily, we didn't know. A lot of people didn't know that the petrodollar system actually ended in 2024. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, I wanted to just give you an idea of the fraud that I committed and how we did it. And it wasn't that complicated, and it wasn't very sophisticated as the fraud that's going on right now, because there was no cryptocurrency. If there were cryptocurrency back then, probably the fraud, they would have never caught anybody, right? But I wanted to talk to you about what we did. And what we did in our fraud and the way that we committed fraud was we would find a builder. And in 2008, the builders were desperate to sell their properties, right? They were desperate to get rid of the properties that they had, because they had multiple $1 million properties. And what we would do is we come in, and this is, people were doing this before I came in, but when I came in, I got stupid competitive with it because I was left with a bag, and somebody kind of left me with a house and kind of tricked me into with this situation. But anyway, I take responsibility for it. Like, I was stupid enough to fall for the play, and but I jumped in, and my competitive instinct became something that this is kind of the bad part of me. Is once I get into something, I go full bore, and I try to take over, or I try to make it better, or I try to, instead of actually going to the police or doing things like that, I just kind of got competitive and said, I'm gonna turn this back on you, kind of thing. And what I did was I would go to builders and things like that, and I would talk to them about actually getting rid of their home. I could get a buyer for it, and then I'll have or I was the buyer myself, but I get a middleman or buyer, and that buyer would come in with a good credit score, and we get that property. And on the day of the closing, on the HUD, we would have people or businesses that was supposedly did work on the house, and they would get paid out from that HUD, right? And then to actually close it, because there was going to be a down payment, what we would do is we would Photoshop a receipt, right? A certified check receipt that the broker could actually put in the file and, mail off to show that the whole situation was complete, right? So that was kind of the crux of the situation. It's more detail in there and things like that, but that's just the overview, right? So why am I telling you this? All right. Well, I'm telling you this because once I got into the trouble that I got into, and I got all my paperwork from, being indicted, there was a lot of forensic accounting done in that portfolio. It's like 80,000 pages or something like that, or 30 to 80,000 pages, because I was associated with some other people. So it was a bunch of paperwork, right? But I went through the paperwork, and I saw how they tracked and traced everything that we did. And so I just was able to go back and look and track it myself. So what am I saying this for? Well, I'm uniquely qualified to identify fraud. I feel, and it's happening right in front of our faces. And I just want you to understand that at this moment in time, yes, we're having a war, but at the same time, there's another war taking place, and that's a financial war. And the financial war is built around this petrodollar. And what's coming next? And there's a private interest and a government interest. And the private interest is kind of taking center stage. And it's a brazen attempt to just recreate the entire petrodollar system, right? Now, in my situation, in my fraud, it was a simple one-to-one situation, right? It was me and the builder, and the middleman was a buyer. In the situation with the government and private players, there's a whole kind of different system of cryptocurrency and the players involved in cryptocurrency, right? That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Also, before this Iran war, even they dropped the first bomb, there was a financial infrastructure that was set up for the whole situation. And the infrastructure that was set up to actually make certain people rich. Who are these people? Well, some of these people are the family of the president of the United States. And we don't know the other people. We know some of the people that's involved with the president, but we don't know the others. And those are the people that are kind of hiding in the scenes. And we have no idea who those people are. We have some kind of idea, right? But they're hiding in the scenes. But this war is not about bombs, not about deaths, not about bodies, although those things are real. Just like the kayfabe that I talked about with Obama and Trump. This is also, some portion of it is kayfabe. And kayfabe is when you, as an audience member, you're looking at the stage and you're seeing the whole wrestling act, right? And you're yourself are participating in saying this is reality. When in essence, everything has been determined before anyone got in that ring. And this is exactly what it is. And I'm going to take you through every single situation, every single thing that's happened in this financial portion of the Strait of Hormuz and its closing. We'll get into it on the next episode. Jimmy Hitchcock, post POAST.